the slate?
It's November 17, 1994. The survivor is Rabbi Dr. Mika Weiss. The interviewer is Renee Firestone. We are in West Los Angeles, United States, and the language will be English.
Our camera is rolling, and Renee, you can start in time.
Rabbi Weiss, legyen szíves, mondja meg nekem a teljes nevét, és hogy hol és mikor született.
Magyarul a nevem Weiss Miksa. 1913. október 19-én Kiskunfélegyházán, Pest megyébe születtem.
Now repeat that in English.
In English. My name is in Hungarian Weiss Miksa, Rabbi Mika M Weiss, and I was born in October the 19th, 1913 in Kiskunfélegyháza in Hungary.
Renee, sit more in the middle of your chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, Rabbi, if you'll sit towards the right of your chair, just
Yeah.
be comfortable.
Yeah.
Don't just be as comfortable as you can. But Renee, you can sit right in the middle.
Both language shall I tell all the time? Both language.
Go ahead, continue.
What were the names of your parents, and what was their occupation?
Yeah, my father's name was in Hungarian Weissman Ferenc, and my mother's name was Therese Hollander, and my father was his occupation was had a hardware store and utensils, and he was one of the greatest Talmud Chochem, a Talmud scholar. Besides his business in Félegyház, he was studied great rabbis, Ariga Szabolcsem, in Gist, in Kisvárda, Kleiverdijn, and in Pressburg, and then 1 year at Frankfurt am Main.
Your mother?
My mother was the daughter of my grandfather, who was 53 years rabbi in Kiskunfélegyháza, Orthodox rabbi, and my mother was a beautiful, handsome person, and we had a very strict normal Orthodox home, not Hasidic home.
What was her name?
Therese, in Hebrew, Therese.
Who else was in the family? How many children?
Yeah, my elder sister was Szerinke, and it was 10 years between us. And then my other sister was Ilus. I was in the middle, and my brother was Joseph, and the last brother is Leo, the only survivor.
Speak a little bit about your childhood. How was it growing up in a small town in Hungary?
In Kiskunfélegyháza was not such a small town, had, for example, 2 great synagogues, one Orthodox, one conservative or neolog, how to say, and 2 Hasidic Beit HaMidrash.
How was the population? How much population?
Approximately it was 25,000, a big city.
And how many Jews?
Maybe 6,000 Jews, all wiped out. And my childhood was raised with love and care, and very Jewish, very ritually. And in my childhood I went in parallel schools, first in the elementary school, in the Orthodox synagogue. We had, the other synagogue had also elementary schools, and when I finished the elementary school, then I had to go to the cheder. We had very mean teachers, they hit us. But I got Judaism with my, as we say, with my mother's milk.
Did you have any non-Jewish friends?
At that time, not. At that time, we were not in a ghetto. in Hungary, but we didn't have. But I remember when we came home from the cheder, it was sometimes late at 8 o'clock when it was very dark, and they tried to hit us, the non-Jew boys, but otherwise I didn't have any atrocity.
Now this was even before the Holocaust?
Before the Holocaust.
So that means that your family was really religious.
We're really religious, and we observed everything at home, and we had great respect for the parents. Let me tell you, for example, when it was not allowed to sit in my father's chair, or when a stranger came, we had to give up our chairs and treat him with respect and greeting, and we were with other people. We had to, because if no, then we got in trouble at home. And let me tell you one thing. I was 3 years old. My father of blessed memory taught me to read in Hebrew. And when I was 4 years old, I could read perfectly Hebrew from the Siddur. And later, when I was 9 years old, I was called to the Haftorah portion in a huge Orthodox synagogue, loaded, 9 years old. And I remember the Sidra. It was Vayikrevu Yemei David Lamuz was the Haftorah, and my father taught me. And this was my Haftorah portion when I was 9 years old.
What about your bar mitzvah?
I didn't have a bar mitzvah. I was in Debrecen. My father sent me to the Debrecen Jido Gymnasium, Jewish gymnasium, and I was 13 years old, and there was my host. I lived in an Orthodox home, but the gymnasium was not Orthodox, was the status quo congregations, and it was a Beit HaMidrash, a side school, shul, and they called me on a Thursday morning to the Torah, put on the tefillin and the talis. I said the brachot, the blessings, and read my portion, and this was my whole bar mitzvah, and we gave some schnapps and cookies.
Where was this?
In Debrecen.
And your parents came?
No one came. It was because I had, I said I was 9 years old, I had the Haftorah portion there. Yeah. Yeah.
What was that book you showed me?
This book is my prayer book. I bought this in Budapest when I was in the first year in the seminary for Joseph Schlesinger. And this was my prayer book. And in Orosháza, where I was the rabbi, and in the Holocaust, I threw away everything except this prayer book. And this was the bag of my tefillin, what my mother and father of blessed memory gave me. And this was the other bag for my talis. And this I didn't throw away, except almost my life was threw away. This I kept.
Good luck charm.
Yeah.
So what kind of education do you have?
I went in Debrecen, a Jido gymnasium, a Jewish gymnasium, 2 years. Then I said to my father, he paid $120 only for my sustenance, this home. Then I said, I don't want you should spend so much money. We were a middle class. And then I said to him, I want to make the Polgári school in Félegyház. Then I decided, my father helped me. I wanted to go to the seminary, rabbinical seminar in Budapest. And one of our teachers, Orthodox teacher, his name I remember was Sinai, taught me. And the Talmud I was taught at home, my father, my grandfather. And 4 o'clock in the morning, I went to the Hasidic Beit HaMidrash to learn Talmud. Then I went to Budapest, and they examined me, and I was great in the Hebrew, but the Latin professor said, "Is not so good your Latin," and they accepted me in the seminary, in the rabbinical national seminary in Budapest. Then I had 5 years lasted for everyone, because we had Hebrew and world things, Latin and Greek and Hungarian and physics. And then the érettségi was, I don't know how do we say, graduation was in 35, and I graduated. And then later went to the University of Pázmány Péter University in Budapest. It was parallel. It was numerus clausus, as you know, closed number for Jews. And in the afternoon, I went to the higher classes in the rabbinical seminar, and I have a big story.
Can you say a little bit about the numerus clausus?
Yeah.
What did that mean?
For us, they accepted us in the university because they knew we will be only rabbis, but we had restricted classes, and we couldn't be professors, tonar, as we say. But my grades were always yellowish, and it came to the last examination. This is a great story.
Did numerus clausus exist in other universities?
All around in the country. And during these university years, many times there was demonstrations to beat up the Jews. And we were told by the pedalus, how do we call the...
By the teachers?
Not the teachers, but who cared about... but he was the servant there, that they are demonstrating is coming, don't come in school because they will beat you up, Jews. So we went through this, and when it came to the last examination, my teacher was, I had to take Arabic among themselves. And the teacher was Wilhelm Pröhle, was the successor of Ignaz Goldziher, who was the world famous Arabist. He had about 30 doctor degrees. He taught even Arabic in Cairo. And I made it, and the next examination, he was always shikker, drunken, thank God. But to the last examination, the doctor, before the PhD, all the professors were present, and he asked me, Mr. Weiss, tell me the first chapter of the surah of the Quran. I said it in Arabic. I said, Alhamdulillahi Rabbi Alamina, and so forth. And then he asked me, what this kike, Goldziher, this dirty Jew, what kind of commentary did he give? In 1 second I realized, if I rebuke him, I will be flunked. Not only flunked, the seminary won't ordain. They didn't ordain if a rabbi didn't have the PhD. Then I bit my lip very hardly, and it was bleeding, and I answered him. And I passed. And weeks after, the strike was here. So I got my PhD in doctorate in July 39.
When did you first realize that there is a problem being Jewish?
I realized first because when we came in the Polgari school, I realized that I was Jewish because we lived a Jewish life. We didn't. My father, for example, went to the Piot, how do you say, the Mar, also, and we had a guy who helped him. He was not Jewish, and he stole many things from us. And once I heard that he said, I carried this Jew very well, and he stole many things. But
when you were still a child, how did that affect you?
Yeah, I tell you, when we went home from the Cheder, as I mentioned, from the Hebrew school, the Gentile boys were in ambush, and they threw stones at us, and some were beaten up, and we ran at home. We didn't fight back. That was the problem.
Why?
Why? Because we were always a minority, and they were in mass. We were 4 or 5, and they came in groups. But today I am sorry. Thank God, may I go in? We have the Medinat Israel, the state of Israel.
When you finished rabbinical school, what did you do then?
I finished the rabbinical school in March 41, but after the doctorate I mentioned you, I got my doctorate in July, and there was
July when?
July 39, and there was an opening, Orosh Haza, a big congregation, and I was not ordained. I had still 1.5 years to be ordained in the seminary. And I was the secretary of the famous Hungarian Jewish rabbi poet, Dr. Kish Arnold. He was the chief rabbi of Buda. And I asked him, Professor, they are looking for a rabbi. Should I apply? Sure, you should apply. And so I applied. He recommended me in 4 lines. I didn't have any connection more. And they invited me. And I had sermon Friday night and Shabbos. It was even because I came from a very Orthodox home, I didn't carry the Chumash in my hand on Shabbos because other colleagues did.
What is a Chumash?
Chumash, the Bible. So I was very careful because I knew they are watching me. It was not an Orthodox congregation. And they invited me for dinner to a home. It was kosher, very strictly kosher. And after that, in the afternoon, they had a coffee, and the whole board came together in the president's home. And the trap was, if I use for the coffee milk, not milk, cream. And I said, no, thank you. And other colleagues did use it. Among 26 colleagues, I was elected. Before, it was September the 1st, 39, they called me on a phone for a funeral. The Hazai, Dr. Hazai Shamu was his name. He was the head of the health department in Orosh Haza, had the eulogy. Great eulogy, and funny. After the funeral, his servant lady came to me, Rabbi, you made a great mistake. What mistake? You didn't say goodbye to his dog. So then in the evening, the board called me, and you are elected as assistant rabbi because you are not ordained.
Explain for a second, why couldn't you have milk with your coffee?
Because, yeah, that is an ancient Jewish law, because in the beginning when Jacob fought with the angel and the Git HaNasheh, I'm wrong.
Just the custom.
The custom, because milk and dairy and meat is rabbinic a long time. You have to separate because I don't want to go to the origin, it's a long story. And we keep it today.
Did you belong to any Zionist movement?
In the seminary, I belonged to the Barisa, but it was forbidden, the Zionist movement.
Forbidden by whom?
By the seminary, because it was sponsored by the government. But in secret, I belonged to the Zionist movement.
What kind of work did you do in the movement?
I mean, in the Zionist,
Yes.
yeah, we sing songs, and we boys and girls, we came together, and we talked about that, about Palestine belongs to us, and we hope And the Zionist movement, we hope we will have our own country once.
When did you first consciously realize that the Jews are in trouble in Hungary?
First, on my own skin. In Orosház I didn't have any problem, but a whole battalion of forced laborers, about 200-300 came to Orosháza. And among them were some of my classmates from Debreceni Jewish Gymnasium. And the colonel called me, please, your honor, your reverend, most reverend, a great respect, tell them it's not a shame, a humiliation to use the ásókapa, how do we say, these working tools. And they came to the synagogue, and I told them, and even the fascists, the carrot laganes were also there, their torturers, and I said to them, the day will come, and this will be your proud, and the time will come where you will be liberated. Next day, I had the SAS to go to this labor camp in Püspökladány. And the sergeant met me, you dirty Jew, I give you some liberation. He gave me a huge slap, so one teeth fell out, excuse me. And then with two soldiers with bayonet took me to the same labor camp in Pusztatenyő where this battalion worked. Very, very hard labor. And they picked me out because of this sermon.
What year was this?
It was in 43, in Purim time, around Purim time.
Now, who were these labor camp people that you talked to?
These were Jews, forced labor, but later this battalion was taken to the Russian front. They were transferred to Kecskemét, is not far from my birthplace, and I was there approximately a month when Nagybaconi Nagy Vilmos, the defense minister, give us excuse because I was a rabbi and I had a congregation, and they sent me home to Orosháza.
What happened then?
Then I was bold and I recuperated from this humiliation, and I continued my duties, and then came the Nazis. I tell you,
Then came the Nazis when?
the Nazis moved in 44 in January to Budapest, and they took over everything, and I never forget it. We knew it will be over everything. The Wehrmacht, yeah.
When you say the Nazis, you mean the Germans?
Germans came and
When
occupied
was that?
in January 44. But they were there, but they came with the Wehrmacht and occupied the whole Hungary.
Were there Nazis in Hungary before the Germans?
There were a lot of Nazis.
What were they called?
They were called Nyilas Kereszt. They told in advance they will exterminate the Jews. And I didn't have a problem in Orosháza, but let me tell you, it was before Seder. You know, Seder is Passover first night. I was single all the time, and I had the Seder by Lefkovich, the present for the Hevrek edition, not for my home. I had a beautiful home for where I lived. And approximately 11 o'clock at night I went home. I wanted to go home. and Vitéz, I forgot his name was in the, he was the, how do you say Vitéz, the brave Hungarian, the neighbor who told me, Chief Rabbi, don't go home because the gendarmes are there. Somebody wanted to plant a bomb there in your home. So I didn't go home and wait here. And I wait until 12 o'clock, then they cleaned it out. This was the first. Then I got later letters, threatening letters also.
So what happened when the Germans came in?
Now, when the Germans came in, by the way, I had a housekeeper, Gentiles, and had the clergy friends. When the Germans came in, my father of blessed memory gave me, when I got the doctorate, a golden watch with a golden chain. And I went to the Catholic priest. He was a good friend of mine. Please, keep it. If I come back, give me back. If no, keep for the church. Okay, hug me. Next day, he sent after me his sexton. He didn't call me reverend. Come, the priest wants to talk to you. And he comes, tells me in a very harsh, mean word, I don't want to keep this. And take it back. And I ask him, Uncle John, why do they do this with us? Don't you think that Jesus' blood is drying on your head, Jews? Then I, humiliated, I went over to the evangelical head minister, Erwin Fürst Erwin, of blessed memory, all of us, Sholom. I said, Erwin, oh my, I keep it and I put it here and I do my best. The same minister, when we were already deported, took out the Torahs and from the temple. But let me go further. May the 19th, 8 o'clock in the morning, 1 Gestapo, 2 SS, and 2 Hungarian gendarmes came to me. Sind Sie Dr. Weiss? Are you Dr. Weiss? And the machine gun right here. And the death shivering sweat came on me. And I said, the Shema Israel, I said, is over. And then they put me in a truck and took me to the gendarme's yard where my board members were there without any clothing. Then they, in the afternoon, 4 o'clock, put all of us in a truck and they wanted to carry us away. And
Okay.
Good. Very, very good.
Fine.
Your story is clear and
Just take your time.
yeah,
Think about what you
Yeah.
want to say, and if you have to stop for a minute
Yeah,
and
okay.
think, it's
Yeah.
okay.
but sorry, it's coming, I jumping in my eyes. I live this through.
Yeah, but don't get nervous
Yeah,
about it.
yeah.
Just take your time and
Yeah.
tell your story the way.
just
Then I
2 minutes,
drop it
2 more
off.
seconds. Everybody ready?
Black one goes to,
Oh, yep.
Tape 2,
Okay, hold on. Now go.
tape 2, November 17, 1994, Rabbi Dr. Mika Weiss.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, on the same day, Wednesday afternoon, all of us, they put in a truck to carry us away from the yard. And the Gestapo asked, who is the youngest among you? And I was the youngest. And he said, took out his revolver, in 5 minutes you don't collect the garbage, I will shoot you here. Even today I don't know how could I do it. Put in my pocket everything and I run and I didn't shoot me. I don't know how did I do it. Then they took us to a jail from there in Jula. And the next day they took us to Debrecen in a jail. In a jail where like we were 50 or 60 people, like herrings. They gave us food like for dogs. Not because we were Jews, because this was the system in Hungary. And food, they threw us like in a little pot once or twice in a day. And then after a couple of weeks, I was about 3 weeks in the jail in Debrecen. They took us to Hajdu St. George, where the other hostages were. 300 elite people from Debrecen and from all Hajdu and Békés country, the elite for hostage. They will shoot us if somebody will escape, instead of somebody will escape from the ghetto.
What happened after that?
It happened in this Hajdu St. George. We were put in a huge stable, and every minute the SS called us in order, you have some gold, and they will shoot us and our family. And then I realized, my God, I will be dead soon. And these people need some encouragement. And I made up my mind, if I have to die, I die. But on Shoah, I remember I didn't have any book. I talked to these people, encouraged them. Don't give up. And don't give a chance them. Hold it. And it was and the SS outside understood Hungarian. And they cried. And they were the first time happy somebody said them encouraging word. So later they made an oath that if we come back, you will be our chief rabbi in Debrecen.
And you were under German jurisdiction at this
German,
prison?
the SS.
Where did you go from here?
Yeah, after in July,
What year?
This was in 44. They took us all the hostages. We have to march to the téglagyár. How do you say téglagyár?
Brick factory.
Brick factory in Debrecen. We were there maybe a day, and it was horrible. The food was cooked in bathtubs, but they put us in the train, in a cattle cars. In his cattle cars was for 50 or 60 people. We had 120, even more. I saw cruel things with the gendarmes, the Hungarians, threw children to the iron and trampled on kids. This was the Hungarians. Then in the cattle car, 3 days without water. The same, we didn't go to Auschwitz, we were the Kastner in Vienna. At first we arrived in Strasbourg. When we came to over the Austrian border, they opened the door and they sprinkled us with water. The first time after 3 days, we got water and we could step down, and they took us for a shower. We had to leave everything outside. They took us for a shower. And after the shower, I make the story short. Yeah? Stop? Or?
No, go on.
Yeah.
Go on.
By the way, they plundered, they had the Ukrainians there. We left our rucksack outside, and they even stole whatever was left over for us, what we could carry with us. Then after the shower, they cleansed us, and they told us we will go for work in Vienna.
What Was this in a camp or in a building or where?
This was a camp, Strasbourg. And they took me and others to Vienna, the others also to Vienna or around. I remember where I was in a school, Bischofsgasse 12. We were a couple of hundred people in this school, and we got some miser food, some bread and margarine. They took us to work. Here I have a story. Next day they took us to Siemens to work, or to dig. And the old people, I never forget his name, Dr. Springer, I was a hostage with him, cried me, Rabbi, I cannot do it, I am too old, help me. And his wife digged also, and I helped him. And in the noon, I went to the, because I was the Aufseher, Jewish Aufseher, because I spoke perfectly German at that time, and I asked the German, please, I want to work and meet these people, the leader or whatever. And he told me, you dirty Zau, we honored you, other slap. I will teach you. And they gave me such a hard work, only one day, because later they took us to another place to work.
So here you were together with women and children?
Women and children in one room. They made, how do you call this, beds, like the soldiers has. Bunks. I was, many of them were my members of my congregation, but most of them were strangers from Debrecen all around.
Describe a little bit how these bunks looked. I mean, were the men and women and children all?
Yeah, the families, like I had some husband and wife, had in the same room. They were and child together, but we were together. But we had the restroom for special for women, because it was a school. They could do it. And the Lagerführer was a Nazi, a little guy, but he talked to us.
Do you remember his name?
I don't know. I don't remember his name, but he was a little Austrian guy. But the Jewish leaders were also there. But sorry to say, they stole a lot of the food. Yeah.
Where did you go from Vienna?
From Vienna, in January 45, a couple of young people, they sent us by train to Santa Anna am Aigen on the border on Yugoslavia in Austria for Schanzwerk. How do you say Schanzwerk? Digging ditches for against, because the Russians, we didn't know it, the Russians came closer. And I tell you frankly, on the train, we were treated like almost civilians, but about 2 weeks we had freedom there, because not too many people were there in this school. And the people helped us, gave us food, and I never forget it, I wanted to be alone. I went in the Catholic Church alone, and I get to talk above to God and all my problems. And then, after 2 weeks, 2 battalions of munkaszolgálatos came, and they put in the same school. They were munkaszolgálatos, forced labor, Hungarian, who worked forced labor camps in Hungary. They came and they were loaded with lice.
Here you still lived with men and women together?
No, here they were only men. Here only men. Now, then they decided they would take us in the forest. They put up some tents in the forest. Here comes a story. We were in tents, and we had to be watchmen because no one should escape. I remember I was with Joe Wigner, one of my members, a young man, not young man, he was elder than me, a watchman, until 4 o'clock at night. And then 4 o'clock we went back to the tent. 6 o'clock the SS came in and took us all out and selected some people. And then they took us to a grave. They shot some from each tent, one or two people. We have to watch it. And one of two my best friends, a Diane from Debrecen. We prepared for Pesach something from the field. He was shot, and another, and then started the march next evening. Arab Pesach started, eve of Pesach. Then, because the Russians came close, we marched, and then it came, other battalions joined us on.
Why did they shoot these people?
Because two escaped from the, and two escaped from the tents.
So then you marched where?
We, on the highways from Austria, we went through, I remember, yeah.
You were in Yugoslavia, on the border of
Austria,
Yugoslavia.
yeah.
And from there you marched?
We marched inside in Austria. I remember we went through Leoben in Steiermark, where I was, as I was a seminary student. I had an uncle there. I was 1 month before the Anschluss there. And then through Graz, and then on the highways, Eisenerz. At night we had to sleep on the snow. No food. I remember I marched together with György, István György. He was a bank director in Szolnok. The brother was a renowned doctor in Budapest, and the other brother was in the parliament. And we talked about food the whole night. And next morning we had to march. If people couldn't march, then they shot them. Two of my friends, close friends, one was a pharmacist, Sarkadi in Orosháza. The other was Dr. Benjamin, a lawyer from Békés Csaba. They shot them. They said it was enough. We don't want to go. And I have to tell you, during Eisenerz, the Austrians were on the border of the highway with rifles to shoot us when we drink water or we go. And they use the machine guns randomly. The blood flew on the highway like water, human blood. I made about 800 kilometers without.
How many people were on this line?
A couple of thousand. A long line.
And how long this march lasted?
It lasted, I don't remember, weeks. And in the evening, they gave us a carrot, how do you say,
Sugar beet.
sugar beet for 40 people. And on the road, maybe some ate some snakes. Snakes. And I picked up some grass, but in the evening they gave us this sugar. And then we marched. I made approximately 800 kilometers. Since then, I don't like to walk.
Where did you wind up?
In Mauthausen. Yeah.
What happened in Mauthausen?
In Mauthausen, we were put in some tents or what. I remember I met the Shoah, the slaughterer from my city where I was born. He was, I didn't recognize him because I didn't have a beard. We were there a couple of days, and suddenly at night the Spitfires or Liberators came and bombed Mauthausen. killed a lot of, not only Jews, Germans, and we saw the heads and arms flowing in the air. And then they said we have to leave, and we marched maybe a week or so, I don't remember how long, to Gunskirchen. Gunskirchen was even worse than Mauthausen because it was raining. And it was raining all the time. It was all springtime. And we were like herrings there, and I never forget it. One of my hostage friend, Dr. Laszlo from Böszörmény, fell on my shoulder, and he asked me forgive me when he was awaking. I carried corpse, and once accidentally somebody hit me. Accidentally my glass broke, and I was without glass. Corpse in piles like thousands. And May the 5th happened, Friday afternoon, without Mincha and Marev, with this prayer book I had. And suddenly said, cannons, and the Americans are here. And we stopped the prayer, and we went for food. And the Americans came, but some people ate too much and died. And
Where did this food come from?
they went to the German warehouses. I remember I asked, a group of people ate there, bread and other things. Give me a piece of bread, give me a piece of bread. And margarine they didn't have. And in the dust I saw a little margarine, I picked it up and I ate it. And then next day people went all around where they wanted to go. And I went to the American soldiers. I was a skeleton because I had the flag typhus. It was later. And they gave us Nescafe, for example. Since then, when I hear Nescafe and everything they gave us, the Americans, yeah.
And how long did you stay after liberation in Gunskirchen?
In Gunskirchen, they took all of us who survived to Hersching. Hersching was a Flugplatz, how do you say, airport, and they put us in the rooms where the German soldiers, and I got a room.
With what German soldiers?
Before the American liberation, they were there, the pilots and so forth, and they put us in a room, in a bed. And they gave us me a bed and my friend Georgi a bed. In my bed, somebody, a sick man, was laying. What did I do? I took some straw and I lay down next to him. At night, something fell on my leg. I didn't care. In the morning, I was awake. He dropped dead, the guy, and he didn't care too much. Only we were used. And then later, they nominated me as a chaplain for the whole. The story is behind this. One of my colleagues was the chaplain. He committed this, they stole some chocolate and things from the captain's desk, and they fired him. And they asked me, first they examined me, my background, and I became the chaplain of Hersching. I have a special band. And,
Did you know then what happened to the rest of your family?
No. We got, for example, in Vienna, soap was R, written into 3-letter R, J, F, Rein, Juden, Fette. They made soap, we didn't know it. And then I realized when...
They made soap where?
In Auschwitz, and maybe in Mauthausen too, there was also a crematorium.
Soap with what?
soap from the fat of the Jews who were burned to ashes. And they gave us this soap. We didn't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we didn't know it. We were in another extermination camp. We didn't know it. I realized when I was the chaplain, and one day I was in Linz, and the captain sent after me another officer, "Come back, chaplain, at once. I want to talk to you." And he told me the Hungarian Jews are going back to Hungary. I want to go back because I want to see my father and my family. He asked me, "How old was your father?" I said, 71. "Didn't you hear about Auschwitz?" "No, we didn't know it. They were burned to ashes." "It's impossible," I said. And I went back, you know. But, so
what happened to them? Did you find out what
at home I found out, he told me they were all burned to ashes in Auschwitz. As no, wait 2 weeks. You are on the staff. I take to the United States. You will be a chaplain there. You are, no, I want to go back. We went back until the American zone. We came to the Hungarian zone, and the Russian soldiers came in. And then we got the blessing from them. I don't want to repeat these dirty words, dirty Yevreys, and they plundered us, and next station they threw us down from the train. And
This was where?
this was already in Hungary back, the so-called Hungarian liberators. Then we arrived to Szombathely, and there was the joint, the omzsarva, how do they call it? They gave food and clothing, and I realized there was a Jew with a little beard. My God, this was the Rabbi, Dr. Joseph Horowitz, and his wife. They survived in Budapest, and they helped me a lot. And then I went back on a train to Budapest. The story is
Tell me, what did you find out at home?
at home. In the American zone, I got flag typhus. I survived because there was no medication. The thousands of Laos contaminated my blood like others. I survived it. And then I forgot all my memory, my hair. And then later I got back my memory. And in Hungary, when I was in Hungary, I knew I had a sister in Budapest. My sister is pictured. And when I arrived to the railway station, Keleti, the eastern railway station, I took the subway. And I remember where I had to step out. They lived in Mozsár utca, close to in a nice place. Then I rang the bell, and my sister came out. "What do you want?" I said, "Szerinke, én vagyok. Nem ismersz meg, Miska?" "Oh, what did they do with my handsome brother?" You know, I lost after the fact typhus, and I was thin. And they survived because she and her husband and the children, they were waiting me. And then then I realized I got help, yeah.
Let's go back for a moment. Where did you get typhus?
In the American zone. But the typhus I got in because when the munkaszolgálatos, the forced labor camps arrived in Szentelen, they were loaded with lice. And when I arrived to Hersching, I had lice on my shirt. And one day I got high fever, and they called the ambulance, and DDT disappeared the lice, and good. After I got the fever, they took me in the hospital, and I don't know what happened in the hospital. Approximately 1 week, I was unconscious. They didn't have medication like today. And then when I was alive, they sent me back to my barrack. funny thing that where my friend lived, I was there and I didn't recognize him. I didn't recognize the place.
But you were a chaplain in Hershey.
Yeah,
right?
I chaplain.
After you had the typhus?
Yeah, I didn't have the symptom didn't came out in the beginning. Only later. Later.
So when you went home to Hungary, you were already well.
I was well, but I waited. I was thin, a skeleton, and all my hair was lost, bald, and in this dirty suit, what I had, this uniform, what the
So when you came back to your
hometown, I didn't go back to. I came to Budapest, hometown late. No, I didn't go back to Kiskunfélegyháza. Later, I went with my sister to Keverovas. Not now.
so it was in Budapest that you found out about your family.
Yeah. Everyone was killed, and I went to the rabbis.
Everyone meaning?
Everyone, mother, thank God, died in 43 or sometimes. But my father, my sister, and my brother-in-law, and all, I had 40 members of my family, relatives in Kiskunfélegyháza. My brother Joseph was shot by the Russians. They went over to the Russians and they said, you were for the Nazis. And they shot the whole battalion of munkaszolgálatos.
So who survived?
One told the story.
Now who survived in your family?
Eliezer, he lives in Brooklyn, the only one, brother.
And your sister?
Yeah, my sister, yeah, in Budapest, but she died at home. She had sick,
When?
in 48, I guess. Yeah. What does it mean?
Okay.
Yeah, and this, hi, hi. Tudja, ez nagyon zavar itten, hogy ők maguk beszélnek, és ő a fedőd leesti, az mindet hagyják felprikol. Szóval
És nem lehetett
kértük, hogy mivel ez volt a legjobb szoba ellenekre, hogy sötét legyen. és Szóval ez volt a legjobb szoba, de
Tehát most már hallom, hogy mi van. Most már
igen,
hallom.
minden
nagyon
mindent
rossz.
hallom,
Ez
amit
pont
beszélnek,
Nedvényi
igen.
is műzik. Ez az asszony egyszer pont csütörtökön. És
Ha tudtuk
én
volna, akkor
mondtam,
Tape 3,
Okay, hold on. And now.
Tape 3, November 17, 1994, Rabbi Dr. Mika Weiss in Los Angeles. So Rabbi Weiss, you were telling us that you recovered from typhoid
Yeah.
and you went back to your sister in Budapest. What happened after that?
After that happened, they treated me. I was at home, and they told me what happened, but I had the feeling I had to go back to my congregation, to Orosháza. I went back on a train a whole day, and from the 350 families, was about 10 left over. And I tried to be there. I was there approximately a month. No, the synagogue was intact, but everyone disappeared. It was a horrible feeling. And I was walking on the street, and Fürst Erwin, the minister of the evangelical minister, came and said, I said, Erwin, who are you? I said, I'm Mishka Weiss. And he hugged me. I didn't recognize him. You can imagine I was not. And then come to my home and I have your watch. Whatever you need, I will give you. And thank you, I got the watch back. And I had some members help me. I had what to eat, but I lost my congregation. I was there approximately a month. Then I went back to Budapest to my sister. And my sister told me a deputation was here from Debrecen. They knew I am back. And I answered them, when he comes home, I will call you. And the deputation came to me and told me unanimously, the congregation of Debrecen, the status quo congregation, I will be there, Rabbi. Now there is a story behind. I was the chief rabbi, but rabbi, my former colleague, he was didn't visit them, and in Hajdú St. George, in the ghetto, he said, I'm not more a rabbi. He went to Switzerland, and he's in Israel. He's older than me, became a professor. When he sent his letter that I don't come back, then they elected me officially anyakönyvvezető főrabbi, their chief rabbi, but from Budapest. But in Budapest happened other things too. I didn't have a position. Dr. Hevesi Ferenc, the chief rabbi of the Budapest, became a general chaplain, and his assistant chaplain was Rabbi Dushinsky. He was a lieutenant colonel at that time, and the other was a captain, my friend Morgenstern. I didn't have a position. I nominate you as a chaplain in Budapest. I became the secretary for a short time before I left to Debrecen to Hevesi Ferenc of blessed memory. And then when I went to Debrecen, they nominated me as the battalion, the whole circle, chaplain, Jewish chaplain, plus I had the chief rabbinate there.
You stayed in Debrecen how long?
In Debrecen I stayed until 59, after the Hungarian Revolution. Yeah.
When did you get married?
I get married. It's a funny story, my marriage with Marika. I performed the wedding. One of my hostage mate, Dr. Acél, Gyuri, and another, the wife was also a physician, and I came back in the office. I didn't have a black suit. The suit was my sister bought me, and I was looking handsome at that time, more handsome than when I came back. And two ladies came. One was Marika, and I didn't know who they are. They looked for matzahs. They belonged to the Orthodox congregation. I said, the secretaries are not here. And they will be here 2 o'clock. Well, who are you here? I said, I'm the new chief rabbi. And she fell in love with me. She came to my synagogue, and then they wanted I should marry someone else. The congregation, I was not the person ever to tell me whom shall I marry. Now, one day came in the newspaper that Dr. Weiss showed this, and Brühl Mária, jegyesek. Oh, it broke out in the congregation, a fight.
Jegyesek means what?
Yeah, jegyesek, that means engaged. And so we got married in October the 23rd, 46 in Budapest. Not in the Tabak synagogue, in the Csáky temple. Two of my colleagues, Nebahidai Berkovic, Rabbi Berkovic, and Dr. Rabbi Katona performed the wedding. And then the reception was in my sister's home. She wanted, and I never forget it, Klaar Zoltán was also there, and he talked, about me. We got married. It was a happy marriage.
Any children?
And after 10 years, I was born in 56. Funny thing, she was pregnant. And let me tell you here what's happened. During the Hungarian Revolution, I was involved, not in the Hungarian Revolution, to rescue Jews, because in the beginning they marched in our streets and especially in the Pasti Utca, where the Orthodox synagogue was. One guy said, "Büdös zsidó," dirty Jews, and the other said, "Quiet, not yet." Then we realized with the Orthodox president, he was wrote that something is wrong. Then it happened.
This was what year?
It was in 53, in the 56, the Hungarian Revolution time. Then on one Sunday, barefoot came to me, people from the villages, and I decided I go to the Tanács, the council with the presidents. And we went to the council, and the gypsies were ready to kill us and plunder us during the Hungarian Revolution. And I went.
Gypsies?
The gypsies, the muzsik, how to say, not from play the music. They plundered the Jewish home. Why not? It was interregnum. The Russian tanks moved in, and I come back to this point. We went to the council. On the top was sitting the president and all around a lot of people. I said, we came to ask help. The gypsies want to kill us and plunder us. And some railway man, vasutas, came. You insult the Hungarian Revolution, you Jews. And I said, I didn't say the revolution. I said the gypsies. Okay, and the president told me, sorry, we are not strong enough, we cannot give you help, we do our best. Next day, I went to the library, and the librarian in the collegium, the library, the collegium was a minister, reformatus, a Presbyterian minister. Mishko, why did you go to the council? Why didn't you tell me? In the next room you have the president. And he told me the president was other
The president of what?
of the Revolution Council, a minister, a Protestant minister. Yeah. Let me tell you a real story. What I played in. I rescued hundreds of kitelepítet, deportees, hundreds, during the communist time. And I worked together with the president of Hajdunánás, Schlosser Jenő. Yeah, this is all.
Rescued them from what?
They kitelepítettek. How do you say? They were deported to around Debrecen.
By whom?
By the communists.
Yes.
Let me tell you, this.
And for what reason?
For no reason, they needed in Budapest their apartments. And they were kulaks, I don't know, industrialists and lawyers. And I was in Budapest.
May I just
Yeah.
ask you, where did they displace these people?
Yeah, in Hajdúhatház is about 40 kilometers from Debrecen. Once was a flourishing Orthodox community. The story started with this. I was in Budapest, and Dr. Josef Schweitzer, who is now the Landesrabbi, the rabbi of Hungary and the chancellor of the seminary in Budapest, at that time he was in Pécs, told me, Mishka, did you know that the police is driving people on the roads, and they don't lend even them to drink water? My God, this cannot be true. Around Debrecen. And I came home to Debrecen, and I called the megyei tanács elnök, how do you say, the president of the whole county. His name was Victor Gergely. And my secretary called him, and and he accepted me in the morning. I said to him, first of all, he locked the door. My God, I got frightened, and he went to a closet and bring some schnapps, and tell me my first name Mishka.
Can you speak in the
Louder, yeah. Yesterday was Simchas Torah. Let us sing together the Ono Adonai Hayshi Ono. He was Jewish because I went, his name was originally Gewürz, and with his brother I went in the Judo Gymnasium, in the Jewish Gymnasium together. We drink a little schnapps, and then I told him this story. It can be true. I will call you tomorrow, I will look after. Next day he called me, I took care about this, and it won't ever happen again. Now, then they told me there are many Jews in Hajdúhatház. I took the train, and I asked where they are, the kitelepítet. And one people told me in a house around. I went there, and they talked to me, and where are the other Jews? In a stable. Okay, I wanted to go to the stable to see the other Jews, and some of them told me that Mrs. Ganzel Neni, hanged herself. My God, Mrs. Ganzel's husband died in First World War, and in First World War died her first son, and the second son died in munkaszolgálat. A poor Jewish widow had a little apartment, and we ran there and cut her off. And I can imagine the feeling. I was so upset, and I decided I will do something. Next day, I went home to Debrecen, and somebody told me who is in charge of this. One of the policemen, a captain. My secretary called him, and he accepted me at once. I saw this and this happened. And Miss Ganzelnene hanged herself. And please let her come into Debrecen. No, we cannot make exception with Jews. And I raised my voice. Easy for you to talk. I survived the Holocaust. Didn't you learn to drink water? And now she hanged. And I talked to him arrogantly. And it's easy for you to talk, you are not Jewish. And he tells me, the captain, how do you know? My father was Jewish. I am an illegitimate child. My mother was a washing. If you bring a letter from the health department that she is sick, I will give permission to bring her in. By the way, who was the head of the health department in Debrecen? Dr. Vilmos Rado. I rescued him. He was a hostage with me, and he wanted to take poison to kill himself, and I talked to him and didn't do it. I went in, and I told him, Willie, I need a letter from you that Mrs. Ganzel is sick. Write this.
Mrs. Ganzel survived?
What the deputy wanted to hang herself.
Yeah, she survived.
She survived. And I told him, Willie, I know you are a coward. You won't do it. Let your deputy do it. He's not Jewish like you. He was geschmat. He was converted. A huge room, run up and down. I know I insulted him. Sometime after 2 minutes stopped in front of me. Mishka, you are right. Let my deputy do it. And the deputy gave the letter, and so I brought in Mrs. Ganzel to our old age home, was next to my home, and we did it 100 times. We brought in Debrecen Inn, about 100 people. Many of them were not Jewish, that means converted Jews. 100 people I rescued in this way.
What happened to the rest of these people?
The rest of these people were, when Nagy Imre became the prime minister, they were excused, they went home. I had so many letters from them, I helped them, and it's a long story, it's written in the book.
So you started to talk about your marriage, and you
Yeah.
were telling me that you had a child.
Yeah, this is the other story. Marika was late, pregnant, and Saturday I went over because it was boiling and the Russian tanks came in quietly in advance, and I talked to my friends, the ministers, Protestant ministers, and I went home. I have to do something. I called the doctor. He was a member in my congregation, one of my best friends, the gynecologist. Forgot his name suddenly, and come and examine Marika. 4 o'clock in the afternoon he came over. It will be weeks when the child will be born. Everything is all right. I didn't trust the things. In the evening, the shamans came to me. I had 2 shamans. Why do we have the Hungarian flag only? We changed it. Why don't we have the communist flags? The Russians are already here. Put out, I don't care, in the front of the building. And I prepared a basket with food and blankets. And I told Marika was in the bed, and I slept in a fur coat and a fur hat. 4 o'clock in the morning, the cannons, the Russian cannons, vehicles. I went, poor Marika, in the cellar, dark cellar, cold, and it got light and no one was there. And I went from the cellar up, and the shamans told me, Rabbi, don't go out because the gypsies want to kill us. Finally, at 8 o'clock, Mező Army, one of my members, walked there, and I told him, I need a telephone. I ran to the telephone. The old age home was dead. My telephone was also dead. And among bullets, and thank God I survived, because they were shooting, and no answer. I wanted an ambulance. In the old age home, next door was, but I need an ambulance for Marika. She had pain. Finally, Mező Army came. I have a telephone. I live in an apartment. I will call the ambulance. And then it didn't come, and we took Marika hand in hand. I was in a fur hat, Marika in a warm suit, and we walked through the streets. And the people told me, don't go, Chief Rabbi, because the Russian will kill you. I said in myself, the Russian won't kill me, you will kill us. And in the middle of the street where the Orthodox synagogue is, an ambulance came. And I went on the road, I lift up my hand, stop. Told me a dirty word, like I don't want to use because, and we are going to the chief rabbi. And I took off my fur hat, they apologized. They took Marika to the clinic. She worked at the clinic. And that's it. I took my mother-in-law in my home. And in the afternoon, I found a little paper on the steps, I am okay. Next morning, Monday morning, I went a bicycle, and a loaf of bread. I pedaled to the clinic where she worked once and the doctors came to me, Mishka, congratulations, you have a son. Don't fool me, where is Marika? She's on the nőgyógyászat, how do you say it, in the obstetricians. And I had a son, I went over, and
when was this?
it was October the 5th, the 6th already. Peter was born November the 5th. It's not November. In November the 6th, a day after. He
What
was,
year?
when was the revolution? 56.
So he was born in
In the
revolution.
revolution. Now, my God, they took, she was among other people, and they took many people, the Russians, they did numbers on the street, they didn't care. And they cried, all the women there. And I said, Marika, why do you cry, you?
Speak Arabic.
Why do you cry, you? I don't care about, they did with us. And she was there, and then, my God, I went home, my mother-in-law, blessed memory, was there, and then the Catholic priest came. He was my close friend. We were both kicked out from the chaplaincy. First he, then me, then the Protestant, and told me, Mishka, what do you have to eat? I will make some scrambled egg. You know why I came? I came to take your family to my parochia to rescue you. I don't leave. I said, thank you so much. You know, his name was Dr. Regers George, the plébános, the Catholic, high Catholic priest. We were very close friends. So, my God, what shall I do? How do I get out? I went on the street. The children disappeared. You know, I saw children with little payers, and I asked them, what Sedra is going? Everyone left. My God, I have thousands of Jews, all left. And then what shall I do? I cannot leave. I wrote a letter through the Jewish embassy and regular mail to David Hollander, Rabbi David Hollander in New York. I am a Hollander. My grandfather was Bernard Hollander. His father, they were brothers. And I wrote a letter to Kurt Wilhelm, the chief rabbi in Stockholm. Hollander didn't answer me, but he sent me a cable. I do my best. Finland is open. A couple of days after, I got an express letter from Finnish Jews sending thy curriculum vitae, that means your life story. And so they invited me to introduce myself. Now, how do I go to Finland? How do I get a passport? The bishop of Debrecen was my friend. How did he become my friend? When he was installed, they invited everyone except the rabbi, the chief rabbi. And I was walking on the street, and one of our friends, the Gentile, how is Mishka, you didn't come to the installation of the bishop? I was not invited. I will look after. 2 days after, the bishop's secretary called me that the bishop wants to visit you. In the afternoon, around 3 o'clock, the bishop, Her Majesty, Péter János, came to my home, and at the door, he told me, Mishka, I came in the name of my whole church to apologize that they didn't invite you. I threw out these word nyilashes, they were fascists, and I apologize in the whole name of church. And come in, he was there 2 hours, we became friends. And I used this friendship. One of our secretary in the synagogue, László Farkas, Feldmesser was his name, had about 20,000 acres of field, land before the communists, and no one wanted to accept his daughter in the gymnasium. She wanted to go, and he asked me, go to the bishop and ask him to accept it in the Reformatus, in the Presbyterian gymnasium, because they had their own gymnasium. I went to the bishop, and I said, he hugged me, I hugged him. I said, János, I ask you a favor. I would like, if you can, please accept her I was hostage together with him, and I marched together. I cannot be her. He is a kulak. You know how to say a kulak? He had this, and he's the enemy of the communists. We had this land, and I asked him. God gave me the seichel. Tell me, János, this will be the only kulak in the Reforma, in the Presbyterian gymnasium of yours. Looked at me. You are right.
So she was Jewish?
She was Jewish. She was accepted, and today she's a famous lawyer.
So did you get to Helsinki?
Yeah, then how did I get to Helsinki?
Quickly, because
Pardon?
we have 2 minutes.
Yeah, how do I get to Helsinki? I need a passport. And the bishop became a big shot. And I went in Budapest. She told me when he's in Budapest. And they invited me. I told me, why do you want to go to Finland? Come to the Tavár synagogue. Here you can get the... I said, I rather want to die because I don't want to, they threaten me. I don't, as Jew. And I will help you. And I got a passport to Helsinki.
So when did you get to Helsinki?
It was Shoah's time in '56, and I introduced myself, and day and night, and I don't know how many times do I have. It's a long story. This was the first time I went to Helsinki.
Did you go with your family?
Only alone. And they told me they elected me, and they told me that they have to, the whole board, the whole members have to vote it, and I talked the tactics, what to do to go the Finnish minister when I don't get a passport. But stop.
So you did get to Helsinki?
First time. The back way.
You're going to return to second time to Helsinki. It's not important how you got the passport.
Yeah.
The fact is you did get it, your family went with you.
Yeah.
You know, try not to say the peripheral. Oh, maybe we should have done it.
Yeah, I just thought I don't think it's going to help though.
Oh, it will help a little bit for sure.
Renee, it's a soul of how do I get there? And how, you know.
But you know, it's not, there are certain things that are not that important. You have to make the decision what is in that event that really is meaningful.
Everything what I tell.
Well, of course, the whole
And it's
story
only,
is meaningful. But since we are on a limited time,
Yeah.
you want to say those things that are the most.
Here we go. This is tape 4.
Tape 4, November 17, 1994, survivor Rabbi Dr. Mika Weiss.
Yeah, I get.
You went back from Helsinki to Budapest,
Yeah,
and then you returned to Helsinki.
yeah.
Tell us how you went back.
How did I went back? First, I need a passport. My mother-in-law got first the passport. I asked the bishop to help me, and the egyházi hivatal in Hungary. She gets first the passport, then we get the passport. We could take out many things from Hungary because I went with a passport. One, we arrived the flight was first from Debrecen to Budapest, from Budapest to Prague, and from Prague to Berlin, East Berlin, from East Berlin to Copenhagen. My mother-in-law and my Marika talked against the government. Shut up, I said to them, because the communists can take us off. when we arrived to Copenhagen, Rabbi Melchior, the chief rabbi of Copenhagen, were waiting for us because I had contact before him. And then we went to Helsinki, the whole family. It was at night. The whole board were waiting for me, and we were the last stepped out from the airplane. What a reception there. And I didn't know the language. I communicate with them in the beginning in German. They put us in a first-class hotel, and I conducted the service, whatever I could do it in German. Yiddish I didn't speak. They give me a Yiddish to learn Yiddish in 2-3 months. I learned the Russian Yiddish, not the but in Hungarian. And then they gave me a teacher in Swedish, because of my language. And they invited me in homes. I didn't know what is gefilte fish, because in the middle of Hungary, the fish was the carp, and I didn't know what is gehackte liver, chopped liver, because we had goose liver, and I didn't speak Yiddish. I never forget.
Even though you came from a religious
Yeah, we
background?
we didn't have, very seldom we had gefilte chuka when there was no carp. This was the Jewish fish in Hungary, in the middle of Hungary. And so I never forget the schnorrer in the synagogue in Helsinki.
What is a schnorrer?
Schnorrer the beggar. He came in a frock, how do you say a frock, in Olakovich, the honor of Shabbos. And he told me in Yiddish, I will translate in English. Rabbi, do you know, you don't know what is gefilte fish. You don't speak Yiddish. Tell me the truth. Are you a Jew? The real story. And what shall I tell you? In Helsinki, I was a loaded congregation. I had 3 congregations, but first I was the rabbi only in Helsinki. I gave my sermons first in German, then when I speak Yiddish, in Yiddish, then sometimes in Swedish. After a year of Swedish. I had classes in children, and one very important thing, I had to show my passport to the state secretary. State secretary doesn't mean what the United States. The secretary after the inner minister, he was, and he interviewed me. A huge room, and there was some machine on his desk. I asked him, do you tape me? Because I came from behind the Iron Curtain. He laughed. I was a colonel, and I was in Prague, and they taped me. You are in a free country. Okay, come tomorrow, I will give you a passport back.
Where was this?
In Helsinki. And I'm walking on the main street, and once a limousine, a huge black limousine, stopped behind me. My God, it's the same as in Hungary. They pick you up on the street. The state secretary stepped out and told me, Over Rabbiner, chief rabbi, here is your passport. He brought after me. We became friends a long time.
How long were you in Helsinki?
5 years. And in 59, the United Synagogue invited me to the Biennial Convention. I refused. I didn't come as one of the chief rabbis of Europe. They elected me as chief rabbi in Finland later. And in 61, as the Russians moved a little, I accepted the invitation. And I came to the Biennial Convention of the United Synagogue in 61. And I had an immigration passport with me. I threw away the communist passport. I got a Finnish, how do you say, not a real immigrant passport. And I came to the United States here, as I can, what is happening here in the television and the newspapers, I was all all on the newspapers and the television, and I was in the biennial convention. I had a lecture, 15 lectures about the Finnish Jews. I got 150 dollars for one lecture, a lot of money at that time. I memorized the English about the Finnish Jews, and I was in Schenectady. And the Reform rabbi, I went with the conservatives. Reform rabbi was a schoolmate of mine in Hungary, brought me a special delivery letter. My wife knew where my itinerary was. Don't come back. The Russians threaten Finland. The congregation get away to Stockholm. Look for a pulpit. I broke down, and I went to United Synagogue in New York, and Rabbi Siegel and Adele Gilead helped me. I had a lecture in Trenton, New Jersey, and Flemington was open. And they told me, they gave me about 15 fourth class congregations. And after the lectures, the rabbi called, the president was the judge of Flemington, came with a car, picked me up, and they elected me as rabbi in Flemington, New Jersey.
How long did you stay there?
1.5 years.
Was your family with you?
No, my family was in Sweden. Funny things. February the 12th, I got a letter for the immigration office, and some green card was in, and I didn't know what it is. And
What year?
it was in 62 January, 62 February. They elected me. I didn't get salary because it was not allowed to work. And on Lincoln Day, I get a letter, a card, a green card. And I didn't know what it is. I ran to the president. Chinese was the judge of the city. My president, what's this? Mazel tov, Rabbi, you got the green card. And since the green card, I asked to send my family in Stockholm. I was working there, I had an apartment, and they didn't come. And I ran into New York. What happened? You didn't ask us to send a telegram, and we sent it by regular mail, and didn't come. Send the telegram. So they came over.
When did they come to you?
Oh, they come not here in Flemington, around March. My wife and my mother-in-law came earlier, 2 weeks, because she had a brother here somewhere, and Peter came, a little boy, and never forget, Monica sent him in school at once, and the first day he cried. He didn't understand the language the second day. He didn't cry anymore. He picked up very fast the English language.
When did you come to California?
California, Marika told me, if it was cold, we were always in the big cities, let's go to California. I went to New York, and Rabbi Bernard Siegel recommended me 3 congregations. One in West Covina, one somewhere in San Diego, and then Mishkan Tefillah. And I went to Worspan, Max Worspan was the, and Mishkan Tefillah elected me as rabbi. I was 3 years at Mishkan Tefillah at the beach. Do you know where it is? In Venice. Huge synagogue, 700 seats, and my English was not the best. And I had got a 3-year contract. During this 3 years, I learned English better, and I got the citizenship, and in between, 66, I got the citizenships, and I got the master mason. I became a master mason, and then after 3 years, I moved.
Tell me a little bit about your family
Yeah.
after you came.
Yeah, we lived in Santa Monica, and Peter went in school, and Monica came along. She spoke English even in Hungary. We had it was not easy in the beginning to get apartment, and then we settled. We lived in Santa Monica. I made a lot of friends, the congregation. I committed these things. It was raining, and I didn't drive. The synagogue was about 5 miles away, and I walked. Then no one was in the synagogue. And they told me the conservative movement's allowed to buy car to go there. And next time, you know, I did drive there, and I was there 3 years, and it was a dying congregation. I never, maybe it's not good, it's on tape, the black people moved in. And I worked late there in the office, and I saw all black around. And I called the president. President, what's going on? They came over, a team, and told me, Rabbi, don't stay here so long. It's dangerous. Then we went, you know, out, you know.
How about your family?
My family lived in Santa Monica. And Santa Monica, we got an apartment. You know,
And what happened then?
then happened that I want to change pulpit. 3 years, I went to Palo Alto. I didn't like. I went to interview in Sherman Oaks, but at that time the name was Bet Chaim. And my predecessor was Rabbi Dickover, and they elected me there. They told, how many members do you have? They told me 99, but I had only 60. Today, I turned off with 200.
You're still there?
Still emeritus, and I go once in a month there and get some.
Now, there was some problem with your wife. She wasn't well, right?
Yeah, she's not well still. It happened in. Everyone realized I didn't realize it, and I don't want it should be. She will maybe sue me, you know. Therefore, in
You
the
don't want to talk about it?
yeah, she got sick, and they rescued me out from there.
What does that mean?
A team came, my friends, and because she was sick, paranoid schizophrenic, mentally. And so they rescued me out from me. One Friday I went to a retirement hotel where my relatives are, in Burton Way. And then I was there a year or so, and I continued my work. I retired from the synagogue, the chaplaincy I had, but still I have. And then I met Hedy. Rabbi Krauss told me his father was alive, and then we got married.
What year was that?
7 years ago. 7 years ago. But 2 years we didn't get married.
What was 7 years ago?
We got married.
When was
April the 5th.
19 what?
1987. Hedy, and I got another family. And in between, yeah, Peter, my son, he was first in San Francisco, and then he went to in Japan.
What does he do?
Peter graduated from Berkeley Phi Beta Kappa business administration. He
What
worked
did he do in Japan?
in Japan for Gray International Advertising. He was there 3 years for this big company. I visited him in Japan, and in the book, in the beginning, the Fugu Plan, they rescued a lot of Jews, the Japanese, but Peter, after 3 years, they transferred him, promoted him as vice president to Mexico City. And Yuriko, his wife now, the Japanese go to run after him. And she asked me, Peter told me she wants to convert. And the Rabbinical Assembly converted her in the mikveh.
The girl.
The girl. And they got married. And Rabbi Krauss and I performed the marriage. I broke down and cried. Yeah. And they have two beautiful children. Peter is going up, thank God, he's working for American company. He recently was promoted to deputy general manager and international vice president. And he's there still in Düsseldorf.
So your son lives in Düsseldorf?
Düsseldorf, yeah. And they have to, yeah. And in between, yeah, he's in Düsseldorf, he's 5 years there. And he goes, next week he goes to Hungary. Now,
You still have a congregation?
yeah, I am still emeritus, B'nai Chaim. I changed the name because the Ocean Brothers, the Benki,
Change the name of
from Bet Chaim is a cemetery name. From B'nai Chaim, the sons of Chaim, the father was Hyman. And I'm still Rabbi Emeritus for a lifetime, and I get a salary, and once in a month I officiate there.
That's all right.
The-
Rabbi Weiss,
yeah,
a survivor of the Holocaust,
yeah.
and a leader of Jewish communities, you must have some special message to future generations.
I have a message, and it sounds that God is, I believe in God, and God is everywhere. I am a Jew, and I believe in the Lord of Heavens, because my people and our people from time immemorial conduct a high orchestra in this huge kingdom of God, which is tuned and which harmonizes with God's Spirit and has only one topic: God is in the world, and you and I must strive to be as honest, decent, and morally oriented as we can be, being created God's image.
This is a very nice passage, but I would like you, in your own words, tell the future children what your experiences during this war meant to you, and what is the message in this whole experience.
Yeah, the message is, why could it happen with us? We didn't have a country of our own. We didn't have Medinat Israel. If we would have an own country, therefore they could protect us. I am a Jew. We have always had to fight for our existence, like David against the Goliath on his own soil. But because if we have Medinat Israel, it wouldn't happen. It won't happen again with us. That is and I believed in it.
What about your grandchildren? Do you want them to grow up in the Jewish faith? Do you want them to know Judaism? What is your message to them?
My message to them is what I said. To be a Jew, in spite of the fact they don't live here, they will there's a big congregation there in Düsseldorf, they will go there, and they should remain Jews, because Am Yisrael Chai, Ad B'li Edai.
Thank you very much, Rabbi. I appreciate your testimony, and we would like to show some of your pictures.
Yeah. It's finished.
Okay.
This is my grandfather in Kiskunfélegyháza. He was 53 years a rabbi. His name is Hollander Bernard Hollander, Kiskunfélegyháza. The photo was made after the First World War, I guess, in his study. Sorry he didn't have the same chance what I had. He collected earth from Palestine. I am in an age when we have the state of Israel, Medinat Israel. He didn't survive it, and thank God we are in an age, not like he. he would be happy.
Okay.
This is my father, Ferenc Weissman, in Kiskunfélegyháza. I made the photo when I was approximately 11 years. And my brother found the photo in the dust after the Nazis, and somebody magnified this picture. And he visited me once in Orosháza when I was the rabbi. How happy he was. But later in Orosháza, when the memorial service was for the Holocaust, the Nyilas, the swastikas came over my temple and I accused them. You were silent. You didn't toll the bells. You let us take away. And I accused them, the clergy and all who tortured us. They did dare to come to the service. The whole newspapers was against me. Okay. This is my mother, Hollander Therese, Kiskunfélegyháza. I was 11 years, a primitive photo. The photo is this, and my mother died a year before the Holocaust. They took us away. She was very happy, and my father, they came in 41 to my ordination in the seminary. She was a great person. I remember somebody insulted my grandfather and one of the congregation, and she told him never dare to do it. It's my father, he was the rabbi there. She was a great person. Sorry, but thank God she died before. She didn't have to go Auschwitz like my father and my sister and others. Yeah, this is different. Tell me when. Now, this is my mother and my sister Ilush. She was burned in Auschwitz. It was in Ilush and my mother, and in Kiskunfélegyháza, Ilush Reichmann, and my mother Therese Hollander in place Kiskunfélegyháza. Date when I was 11 years with a primitive camera. I made the same photo, but I magnified.
Approximately what year?
In approximately before I went to Debrecen, I was 11 years old. Yeah, I don't remember. I made the picture. I don't remember the year. Not long. Oh.
Okay.
That's my sister Szerinke. The last name, the marriage name was Brenners. Place in Budapest. Date of photo I was made in Budapest. She was, after my mother, the best. I have to thank her so much. When I went to the cemetery, I lived in their home, and she was such a religious person. When she died, the whole half Budapest was there because she made a lot of good deeds for other people. Have 2 sons and 1 daughter left over. This is my brother Leo Weiss. The picture was taken maybe in Kiskunfélegyháza. He lives now in Brooklyn. He's married and has children and great-grandchildren. The only survivor of my immediate family. He survived the munkaszolgálat. He found my father's picture also.
You don't remember what year
Leo.
this picture was
What?
taken?
I don't know.
Okay.
He gave me, I found it. This is myself and my former wife, Marika Brühl, and the picture was taken in Debrecen, approximately in 48 or 49, and when I was the rabbi in Debrecen. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
This is my son Peter Weiss. The picture was taken in Helsinki, and maybe in 52, and this is my son for Marika and me, and Peter as a child in Helsinki.
Second, can we?
This is the temple in Helsinki where I was the chief rabbi.
Go.
This is myself and Hedy Flash. The place was taken here in this home, and the date of photo can be not long, maybe a year ago, is my wife, Hedy Flash, and me, the second marriage.
Okay.
This is me at the wall, at the western wall, Kotel Maravi in Israel, when I was there the first time in 10 years ago, and they put me on a talis and tefillin, 1984, and I cried and prayed there at the wall, and never forget, when I came to Jerusalem, I cried 2 days, and
Okay.
this is the picture of me when I became a rabbi of my congregation in 66 and later, Bnei Chaim, Sherman Oaks. Thank you. Okay.
Előbb, hogy mit akar a fiától,
Yeah.
mit
Yeah. This is my son Peter in Düsseldorf, with my grandson Jason, and he's in Düsseldorf, deputy general manager for American company advertising, and I'm proud of him. And he calls me super, and I'm very proud of it. It is the marriage for me and Marika.
When was this picture
The
taken?
picture was taken a year ago or so,
1993.
1993. He sent me, maybe later, yeah.
Okay.
This is my two grandchildren. They are in Jason and Juliana, and in place in Düsseldorf. Date of photo must be 1993, 94, a recent photo. I have a message for them. I love them so much, and I want they should follow the way what I would like to have, be a nice, decent human being and a Jew in any way.